Hey, Jamie and Steve, what's going on?
Hey there, Scott. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Office Hours. What's going on over there, Steve?
Not too much. Just ready to hear what you have to say, Jamie.
Yeah, some interesting action to say the least in today's market session, and we'll get into that shortly. But before we get rolling here, just a quick word about the disclaimer. Just want to make sure everybody in attendance is aware of the fact that all the information that we share in these webinars is for educational purposes only. So that means if you need investment advice, what to buy, when to sell it, all that good stuff, please do yourself a favor and seek out someone who's licensed to dispense that type of information, like a registered investment advisor or a Series 7 licensed stockbroker that is legally allowed to dispense buy and sell recommendations to you. And once again, everything that we share with you guys during these webinars is for educational purposes only. Always like to take just a smidge here at the top of the hour for the new people to let them know about the community that we've fostered around the award-winning tech that is Trade Ideas Pro. Barry's Trading Room, or the Trade Ideas Trading Room, hosted by Barry Anderson. Really is his trading room. He is the moderator, does a great job in there showcasing his trading style as well as the way that he uses the TI technology as well. Loves to answer questions too. So the great thing about the trading room, other than Barry, is the price of $0.00. So if you've shopped around, you probably found out that if a trading room is worth its salt, it is typically not free, but not the case here. That's another additional asset that you get when you become part of the TI family. As far as the 5 p.m. Eastern webinars that we host Monday through Thursday, you get myself and Steve on Mondays for office hours. Steve's going to take the steering wheel for the trade of the week tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about the trade of the week that was issued this morning, which is off to a great start. Andy Linloff's going to ride shotgun with him. Wednesday rolls around, we bring in our CEO and founder, Mr. Dan Merkin, along with our Chief Technical Officer, Brad Williams. Always interesting with those two. Then Andy's going to round out the 5 p.m. Eastern slots on Thursday with the trading studio, and I ride shotgun with him. Of course, every day, Monday through Friday, we've got our daily support webinar starting at 12 p.m. Eastern and going every weekday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. And the next slide here will show you how to access that. Well, get my pointer working here. Where'd we go? There we go. Okay, daily support session. The URL is static, so if you just bookmark that trade-ideas.com/live, that's where you go each and every day to attend the live support session. Outside of the 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern webinar, we are streaming Barry's Trading Room, so that's just another way to access the trading room other than the 12 to 1 p.m. slot, which is allocated for the live support session. And accounts are on the rise, and we expect to see more of that in the new year. Big boost since we launched the AIs in 2016, or I should say the very first AI, and we've added 2 modules since that point in time. And along with that, we have the ever-growing Brokerage Plus order activity. As you can see here, demo orders in orange, we got live orders in blue. Of course, since Brokerage Plus is only available in Interactive Brokers, that's what you're seeing right here is all the Interactive Brokers activity. But it's increasing each and every month. Live orders keep going up. Each and every month, a certain percentage of these demo orders, people have enough practice and they start executing live. So that's a good sign, and orders are on the rise. And probably you guys are getting tired of hearing me and everybody else say this, but it's getting pretty close before we make our first run at a $0 broker-dealer port of Brokerage Plus, and hopefully that's going to be Ameritrade coming out pretty soon. I hear it's moved to testing phase. So hopefully before too long, we'll actually see that released, and that'll be nice because big difference between paying commission at Interactive and not paying commission somewhere else. So stay tuned. And here we are at today's agenda. Got some interesting observations to share with you guys, a couple of cool windows to get out to you as well. But first, I'm going to pass it on over to Mr. Steve Gomez, and he's going to talk about just the overall market action. Pretty interesting stuff today. So Steve, if you're ready, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right. Great. All right. So hello, everybody. A couple observations from today. We'll start with the SPY, S&P 500 as usual. You know, last time we spoke, that's not what I meant to do. Last time we spoke, something along the lines of that, I think. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, yeah, perfect. So along those lines right there, we talked last week about my feelings were going to be some consolidation was needed. We talked about either sideways consolidation or consolidation in price. I was hoping for the sideways consolidation to give us a tell that the market was healthy and strong and ready to bounce higher, but it looks like we're getting consolidation over price. Not only that, it would have been nice to see the market hold this consolidation in price that we had a couple days ago off that 10-period moving average and trampoline and springboard back into play. But today it seems as though the market midday had other thoughts and gave us a pretty good sell-off. So we closed basically in between the 10 and the rising 50 here. We're kind of back in no man's land again with nothing really to look, well, as we look back here, this was kind of an interesting level and we're a bit below that just by eyeballing it. So, you know, we've got the former of the two, as I said, consolidations, a pullback in price versus time. So it looks to me as if this is just staring us dead right in the eye. This 20 and this 50 coming up underneath to try and create a floor, which would still give the bulls a higher low, a higher low, and a higher low, something to move off of. And maybe we're even talking cup and handleville coming up here close. That's 5 days later. That's my synopsis of where we are now. We didn't go sideways. We pulled back in price. So be it. So the Nasdaq, respectively, looks the same. It seems like just an obvious support level here, and when we see obvious levels, they're probably going to be tested. So maybe we'll see that tested tomorrow. If those levels don't hold, then we're back into head scratching mode again. We don't want to see the market lose the 50-day moving average. To me and everybody else that I know, the 50-day moving average acts as the bellwether. Is the stock positive really in its overall health, or is the stock negative really in its overall health? We want to see these things remain above the 50. Interestingly enough, I'll talk more tomorrow. I thinned out of a few items today. I didn't like the way the markets closed below the 10-day moving average. So what did I do? I went through my portfolio and I found a few names that were all of a sudden sneaking down below the 50. And I said, well, as I just said, stocks names below the 50 are not in so much of a healthy mode. Let's start by weeding the garden and trimming those out of my portfolio. So I sold a few things today in the swing garden that were red and weren't working for me. Time to cut them, let them go, and try and keep the ones that are working. So I use today's backdrop as an opportunity to do that as well. The trade of the week, which we'll talk more about tomorrow, is pretty darn healthy. The Pitney Bowes, there's a story there. E-commerce needs equipment to mail, ship, and weigh this stuff, and Pitney Bowes is there to do that. It's really as old as I am. It's as old as dirt. These used to be mail stamping machines in the mailroom back in the 60s, but now it's evolved and catching up with the time. But more importantly, the chart confirms the story. The moving averages are all fanned out, and we had a nice test last Thursday and a nice bounce off of us is what you want to see, stocks that are healthy. So we'll keep an eye on that, but you know, just peeking intraday here, PBI gave way because the market really just didn't have any bounce at all. The market just gave way, and in hindsight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 tests today of that simple moving average that I use all the time to gauge momentum. So momentum was definitely to the downside, and markets were under pressure today. Before I give it back to Jamie, let's just see how those line up with the SPY. Even worse or better if you're short and trying to gauge momentum. But the only real test there, midday tests, and that's where the market had every opportunity to take that midday test, but it failed, and then confirmation failed there and acceleration into the close. So if you're not familiar with why I like to look at the 15-minute chart using a one and only indicator, which is the 10-period, 10-candle simple moving average, it is always the guiding hand of momentum, and it can make things just so much more simple if you're trying to line things up, just to have one thing that lines up. I remember the old Pitney Bowes. Yep, Dave, you must be my age. All right, Jamie, that's all I've really got, and I'll just help you answer some questions here as you move on.
Thank you so much. Good stuff. And we should be back on my screen now. Okay, all right, so kind of a strange day today. And what I mean by that is, we all have our favorite metrics, studies, indicators, things of that nature, and sometimes they just don't do what they're supposed to, and that's just part of the game. So when I saw my compare count window this morning after the first 15 minutes, and I saw these readings, I'm like thinking to myself, well, here we go. Another up day, another green day we're gonna have, and yay, nothing's wrong, blah, blah, blah. 57% upside, but that was not the case, as Steve just illustrated there. Today, this bullish count didn't really count for anything as we tightened up and rolled over. So that's the first anomaly that I saw today. And we're gonna get into more kind of anomalous activity a little bit later in the presentation here. But first, not going to be much of a Holly recap today because, well, let's just take a look here. How many signals did we have today? Well, let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And if we check out the channel bar here, it's not like one AI module was hogging up all the action today. We had 2 from 1.0, 2 from 2.0, and a whopping 3 from Neo. But as you can see from the totals over here, barely green, but this is assuming 100 shares per trade, which is not the way most people interact with the AI. If you take note down here, once I cycle through these profit modes here, you'll see it doesn't matter what profit mode we were in. Well, conservative. If we were in conservative profit mode, we're barely green, risking $100 per trade, which is the values that you see here in the share amounts. Barely profitable, but of course, after slippage and commission, red in conservative mode as well, since this total does not account for slippage or commission. Moderate, down 244, and aggressive, down 91. So a few of these positions were bouncing back at the close, but nothing really to write home about as far as the AI is concerned. Now, things changed a little bit in the last part of the day. So there was a tiny bit of spread between conservative and moderate mode here. If we take a peek, and I'm referencing these columns right here, notice how the spread here, we'll just round this up to 30. If we would have stayed in it, an extra 42 bucks on the table. While it is a spread, once again, it's nothing to write home about here. And this trade coming late in the day, which we haven't seen power hour long and power hour short making the cut very often here lately. But lo and behold, we did have one today. Buy signal coming in at 59.28, very late in the day, the last hour, thus the name power hour long. About 47 minutes before the close. Buy comes in at 59.28. Holly closes it somewhere in this candle right here, in that red candle. And then if we were just held on one more 15-minute candle, we could have eked a little bit more out of that trade. But once again, butting up into the close, nothing really to write home about there. But spread is spread. And so we had a little bit of spread in AERI, which was a short play today as well. See Holly calling the signal right here, pretty early in the session, about 6 minutes in to be exact, a little short at 10:30 here. In this candle right here, get a little bit of a wiggle, but a very long way from the stop area, which is up here, so I didn't have to worry about getting stopped on that one. Hovering around the entry period, or the entry line, I should say, before taking this little swoon down here to the $10 level. Not the hugest move, but it did stay green for most of the session, came back up here and tested the entry line one more time, and then really gave up the biggest move of the day in the last 15-minute candle there. So with a little patience, could have been rewarded there, but any of these things could have went any given direction during the session. Of course, the market falling out of bed a little bit is what helped out this short trade here. When we look further down the list, we just don't see any other spreads existing before conservative and moderate here. So typically, we like to talk about 3 different things: potential spread between moderate and conservative, any positions where it would have been, I guess, opportunistic to add on to here. Don't really see any add opportunities unless we kind of waited and see how it reacted above the entry line. We could have always acted or let that act as a pivot level, but not the most clear cut. What was the other one here? Mitch. As far as trade arounds go, this was a short that came later on in the day, MTCH, getting the short here, and then quickly getting stopped out. Of course, we hover a little bit above that stop area, then for about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a good hour and 15 minutes, look how it's hugging the stop area. So if you were able to identify this area right here and go, look, clearly now the stop area is acting as some type of pivot or resistance, could have put in a pretty low risk short up here and potentially enjoyed this little down move here. But that's about it for the Holly highlights. Not a whole lot on the table. With the gaps and approaching the new highs, it's kind of throwing a little wrench into the statistical model that is Holly, but that is just part of the game. Got to take a little bit of time there to digest over a period of time and hopefully get back to delivering some good trades and some good winning totals. Okay, moving right along here. Got a couple of different things to point out. I'm just trying to figure out which one's gonna go first here. All right, why don't we do this first? I'm gonna save the opening range breaks for after we talk about the anchored VWAP that we visited last week. And the reason is because considering the market action today, for some reason, there was an extremely high amount of A+ setups coming through the high version of this ticker, which is very odd, okay? But we're gonna talk about those because stocks that are in play going up on a day like today, you're probably gonna wanna pay attention to those tomorrow, so I've figured out a cool little way to help you guys do that. But first, let's revisit the anchored VWAP top list that I constructed last week, and we marked up some of the price alerts here just at random, and this was the top list that we used to do so. A list of the 100 most recent IPOs, and then we plugged in all of these price alerts here, okay? So out of, let's see, how many did we do here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Out of 10, we've only had 1, 2, 3, 4 trigger, okay? So keep in mind, this was a first generation idea. So we wanna see how these things reacted, and the way that they triggered and reacted is exactly the way I thought they might behave. Now, what we're gonna do first is take a look at Big C, okay? And we can see the arrow here. Now, where I have my lines drawn, the green area was the VWAP area. Now, it disappears every time we switch charts, but since these are IPOs, what we're doing is we're anchoring to the first day of trading. So I'm gonna come back here, hit that anchor. Now you see the purple line present itself. The green line is the price alert that I set. So what we have to, and of course the VWAP has changed a little bit since we set these alerts, okay? So really what we need to focus on is the green line, because as additional days and volume come in, it's going to alter the volume weighted average price there. So check out what Big C did, and I remember the day that this triggered on the 14th. We got a nice little pop above, okay? But it's crucial that we have closes. When you see these signals come through, what we want to see is a nice strong close above that green level right there. And we just didn't really get what we wanted there. And then look, instead of acting as a level of support moving forward, VWAP, or the green line up here, which is where I set my price alert, has in essence acted as a level of resistance, okay? So that's what happened in Big C. This one as well, LMND, note the green line. Note the day on the 14th, had a nice little intraday push from 69 up to almost 73 bucks there, but it couldn't hold it, and we did not get the close above that line. Pretty much the same type of action in SQFT. Let's see, what was that day? It looks like my line got a little out of order there. I don't know why it's so far away. Or was that below? No, weird. My lines look all out of place there. In the end, no big deal there. That was 22 cents. Now I want to show you this one here because this is what we're looking for, okay? Quad C. relatively new biotech. All right, CC. So we got the alert and we got a close above. Next day we got a little push and then a close above, and then today we're moving higher again. Okay, so the difference between this one and the other three is that we got some strong closes for affirmation there, and then we get a push higher. We have to give these things a couple of days to figure out, okay, is this anchored VWAP going to act as support or potential resistance? And the only way to tell that is by giving it a little bit of time. So still got 6 more here working, but keep in mind, if you had the list from last week, you can always go back and set as many of these alerts as you'd like based on anchoring to the first day of trading for that anchored VWAP, and just go through there and set all different types of price alerts. But just remember, you want a couple of steady closes, or at least a nice big green candle and a close well above on that first day, or a little sideways action with some consecutive closes above, like we're seeing in the quad C here. All right, so just wanted to revisit those first. And of course, market conditions right now as we approach the election, I would only expect things to get a little bit more dicey as we approach those days. Yeah, and Paul, I will provide that cloud link for you, but what you have to keep in mind here is this cloud link for the 100 recent IPOs is going to be pointed to a specific list, which I will also have to share with you, last 100 IPOs. So towards the end here, I'll make sure that I redistribute that one as well. All right, so moving right along here. Okay, as you guys know, one of my favorite simple patterns for intraday stuff is that opening range break, and typically kind of doing it a little bit backwards, looking for stocks that have extremely high volume, letting the pattern be secondary, because you know that if that pattern does present itself, you got a full tank of gas and you have a higher chance of getting where you want to go, as opposed to hitting on the gas and putt, no volume there. So what I found interesting today is there was just a higher than normal amount of what I like to call A+ setups here coming out of this ticker today. And these are the symbols right here that we're going to take a peek at. Now, I don't know why. I mean, this is kind of like pulling up the rug and seeing things that are happening, not just on the surface with the major tracking ETFs. It's not like IWM was holding up super strong today, although it was down less than the rest of the trading ETFs. But having said that, usually we're going to have a couple of 2, 3, 4 really high quality patterns coming out of this thing, even on an up day, down day, sideways day. But today we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9 of these things. So without further ado, let's just take a peek. Now we can see it here on the 15-minute, but I'm gonna go a little bit smaller time frame, just so we can see a little bit more detail here. Okay, so first on the block here, MGI. All right, opening 5-minute bar here. We got a little run up. We got a little pullback to the 10. As I've stated many times before, many times this 10 period is going to look good on the 5-minute as well as the 15-minute. So we had a nice little run up, a pull back, come up to this level right here and pop through on high volume, corresponding perfectly with this high volume bar here. And we get the break right about 440. And before it is over, we're putting in a high of 540 up here, okay? Even a second opportunity to bolster the position as we take another little pullback, kind of have a little battle with that 10 period before reclaiming it and coming back up here and having the pattern repeat itself at 481, okay? So first signal here, opportunity to bolster the position here. But as far as risk it goes, not including the entry bar, we're going to look at the lowest point in the prior 15-minute before the entry. So we got a nice tight risk area here and a reward area all the way up here, okay? That's what we want. Doesn't matter if it's intraday or a longer time frame here. Now, also something to point out here is the red line that was obvious right here, which is the system telling us, hey, this is the area that could act as alleged or potential short-term resistance. Chewed through it for about 15 minutes and said, nope, we're going through it. Pulled back right below it before we took that second run for the day, okay? So beautiful trade in MGI there, pretty low risk and a high percentage return. And next we had this guy, okay? Once again, what do we see right here? That next little level of short-term, potential short-term resistance. We get the call coming right through here. And I marked some of these up, but some of my lines disappeared. Got risk area right about here, nice and identifiable. And then just pretty much immediate liftoff, a little immediate gratification. Coming almost all the way back down to the entry level here before another little period of consolidation. But risk area is down here, reward area at the top here. And once again, a very nice risk to reward ratio there. And by the way, when we're talking about volume levels, 15 on CJJD. Forgot to look at MGI. What did we finish at there? Finished at a very healthy 7.68 on MGI. Then we had this guy, LQDA, finishing the day at 20.97. Once again, looks very similar to what we saw in the prior two. Coming up to this level right here, breaking it. What do we have right here? That next little area of potential resistance. But these guys are having none of it today. Consolidating a little bit around that area, already setting up for what could have been a very nice second entry there. Marking off the reward area up here as well. And from that original signal price, we could probably pack that risk area at least 3 times and have a little bit left over in there, maybe even 3.5 or so. So some very nice risk to reward ratios coming out on these little stocks. And keep in mind, these are the smaller cap stocks, but they're in play today, kicking out tons of volume, very liquid. So set up and moving right along, we had this guy too. So already we're at 1, 2, 3, 4 LQDA JT, and maybe on any given day we'll have 2 or 3 that look this tight, okay? But yet here we have JT again, rounding out the day at 11.76. Yeah, it was only 70 cents, 73 cents going through this level here, but before it was all over, we were almost up to $1. So from a percentage standpoint, that is a fantastic risk to reward ratio there. Now keep in mind, the market drug all of these down eventually, or most of them, but hey, once you're up this much, it's about risk management, peeling off the whole position somewhere in this run. Of course, we're never gonna tick the top, maybe every once in a while. That's gonna be the anomaly, not the norm, but it does happen from time to time. But anywhere in this run, hey, we had a bird in the hand, we just had to decide how we wanted to treat it. But we're nowhere near finished yet. NCTY, all right, this one took a little bit longer, but the pattern is the same old song and dance. High from early on in the session, 255, kind of hemmed and hawed down here before it built a little bit of steam, getting back up through here. How'd we finish on volume today? 6.8, entry level coming in around 255, and before this one was done, we're up to a little over $3. And once again, low dollar stocks, but who cares? It's about the percentage that you're getting on the move. And once again, very nice risk to reward ratio. And here's another one, just pounding through that area of potential short-term resistance. But yet, the hat goes deeper. This was a really nice one too. LYL, Dragon Victory, of course. I believe this one is a Chinese stock as well. Yeah, People's Republic of China. But hey, who cares? When you're pumping out relative volume like this, then yeah, you're not seeing things there. This one finished relative volume 627. All right, this little guy usually only kicks out, what is it, about 557,000 shares a day over the 3-month, but not today. 37 million shares traded hands today. And this little guy, look, once again, just a smidge away from the signal, that little area of short-term resistance once again, breaking its orb right here at the $1.94 level, and before this guy called it quits, 372. So a run from, let's just call it $2 up to 3, almost a doubler on that one, not quite. So a very hardy run and huge risk to reward in our favor there. And these guys never really, tempted the stop losses much at all here. As you can see from this level down here, that would have been our stop, never got close. All right, let's keep it rolling. ITP. Once again, what do we see coming into play? Not too far after the signal line. Signals comes through right here, about 78 cents. And before we're done on this one, getting up to about $1.40, not quite a doubler, but pretty darn close. And once again, this is all happening while the market is weak or we're starting to go down, but these little guys just didn't care. Now it eventually got a lot of things that were up today, but once again, you got that bird in the hand, all you have to do is figure out, well, do I want out? Do I want to keep a little bit? Maybe peel off half, keep that break even stop for the second lot, which would have probably gotten you on most things today. But to see moves like this over and over again in these small caps, I don't really know how to make sense of it, but I can tell you this, based on what Steve was showing us, and let's see, I'm on ITP, we still got a couple more to go, but if we just kind of focus back on the SPY chart here, and we had this gap, and this gap, we filled this gap, we filled this gap, got just a little bit of a smidge to fill this gap. Hey, tomorrow's Tuesday. Sometimes Tuesday's known as turnaround Tuesday, right? So just keep this scenario in the back of your mind. Let's say we gap down a little bit tomorrow. Maybe we gap all the way down to the open of this candle, which would close that gap. Maybe we gap down a little bit and trade down there. But possible scenario is this: we fill that gap and then we turn back up, setting up for a perfect turnaround Tuesday. And if that does occur, and there's no guarantee that it will, but it's a potential outcome here, then the list that I'm going to provide for you guys with these stocks in it, if they were active in this capacity today, well then probably a pretty good idea to keep tabs on them tomorrow. All right, so ITP was the last one. We got a couple more here to go. MARPS, M-A-R-P-S. This one kicked out over 4 million shares today. Another very high relative volume number here, 359. Usually only kicking out about 144,000 shares a day on the 3-month, but kicked out over 4 million today. And once again, coinciding right with that area of potential short-term resistance and not having any of it, right? So 273, and before this guy capitulated, wow, look at that. We topped out over $8.50 before it came back down to earth, okay? So, 275 up to 8, I mean, that's just a profit bonanza right there. Now, where you got out, it's another story, but plenty of time to do so. And the risk here, I mean, talk about small, that's about as small as you can get when it comes to an intraday or a swing trade for that matter. But just a huge move in MARPS today and a huge relative number on the volume to accompany it. And last on the list here, AIHS, seeing just more of the same here. A beautiful signal right here at 96 cents. There's that red line again, ever so prevalent. And 96 cents, this one held up pretty strong into the close, okay? Something to keep note of tomorrow. 96 cents up to about $1.51. Once again, a huge percentage value with relatively low risk, okay? So here we have 9 of these setups that, for all practical reasons, are pretty identical, okay? Nice tight consolidations, short-term resistance getting blasted, okay? With pretty substantial relative volume numbers in all of these things, okay? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna hand out this top list, okay? Which is a very simple top list. It's gonna be focusing on these 9 symbols. Let me make sure I got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So where there's smoke, there's fire. It's just my little cheesy name here. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and drop this in, and then I'll drop the list in there as well. And what I'd recommend is just put this top list up tomorrow, watch for the high relative volume, check these things out, set some price alerts, because whether they capitulate and give back a lot of what they were up, or whether they go on runs tomorrow, I think that these guys are going to be in play tomorrow. So here is the top list. And let me grab the simple list for you here. Only 9 symbols in here. And those are the symbols that you can point that top list to for tomorrow. Now, questions here. And I will redrop the anchored VWAP list again, along with the signal, or along with the symbol list as well. Dave's asking, is there any way to use these longer than intraday? And of course, just as with any signal, whether it's one of these or whether it's Holly signal, if you're trying to size these up for swing trades, it would all be predicated on what you're seeing on the daily here. Some of these might look good for swing trades, some of them might not. We just kind of quickly scroll through here. You know, a lot of these stocks are sleepy stocks that are coming to life. So there's not going to be, you know, when you see candles like this, you know, you can attempt to make a little bit of sense on the daily for swing trade potential. But as far as being comfortable in a longer term trade, you know, if we were long somewhere in here anticipating this breakout, yeah, okay. But once we see these big candles like this start to, you know, start to show up on the map, well, it doesn't make, you know, swing exits that easy to identify. But that doesn't mean that some of them might not turn into good swing trades. A lot of the times it depends on, hey, if you make it to the open and you're up significantly and you got a little bit of, well, I never like to use the term house money, because when you're up, it's your money, okay? So, you know, intraday is the ticket for these entries. If you feel comfortable and it looks halfway decent on the intraday, or excuse me, the daily, you know, you can always attempt to turn these into swing trades, or you might have to zoom out a little bit longer and go look at the weekly or the monthly to get a better idea of, you know, how comfortable you might be holding these things. All right, so a little time check here. All right, got time to get this list dropped in as well. So let me drop this into the chat. This is the IPO top list. And of course, you're going to need the symbols to put in that top list as well. So let me get those for you. All right, here we go. All right, so that is the list that I just dropped in for the IPO top list and for anchoring the VWAPs there. Okay, so you guys have the smoke and fire top list for tomorrow, based on what I saw coming through these tickers today with the extreme high volume. So expect, you know, there's no guarantee those stocks are going to be in play, but I think there's a good chance that they might be. And if they're not, hey, no harm, no foul. At least we, you know, attempted to keep a bead on them. So let's see another question popping in here. And yeah, Nelly, if you're relatively new with the scanner, once you set up a screener or a window, let's just call it a window, and it could be any variety of windows, alert, top list, whatever. But let's say you set up your window. For example, when I reboot my layout every morning or reboot trade ideas, all of these windows come back up at the exact same location. I have saved my layout. So once you set up a window, it's a good idea to come up here to File, say Save Your Layout. This is going to save it to your local hard drive. Now notice down here, it's automatically saying, okay, I'm going to save this as your default layout, which is the layout that will open back up when you reactivate trade ideas, okay? So as long as each and every time you make a window and you make adjustments to it, come over here and you say File, Save Layout. That way, everything pops back up just like you left it last time. Now, if you're saving to the cloud, and let's say you reboot trade ideas and it comes up and the window's not there, if you need to retrieve it from the cloud, you just say File, Load from Cloud, find your window, spawn it, but it's still highly recommended once you do that, if you don't want to have to go through that process each and every time, just save your layout and save your default layout. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, ladies and gentlemen, pretty light content today. I think I zoomed through that pretty quick, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We got about 15 minutes here left. So if anybody would like to maybe throw a couple of symbols out there, take a look at some of the longer term charts and kind of render my hack opinion on those. Good idea, Mike. Okay, all of the symbols that are in that list that I delivered to you guys, they're coming from these setups here, okay? These real tight setups, that is the list. So you got AIHS, NCTY, LYL. So these are the symbols for the smoke and fire top list. It's just that normally there aren't that many of these nice tight setups coming through this window each and every day. So I found it very odd that this many came through in the face of a red market, okay? It's kind of like most people look at the first layer of the market, which is the big tracking ETFs, the bigger liquid stocks. But it's just very strange to see these types of setups coming through on a day like today, which, you know, if anybody is out there is old enough to remember Beavis and Butthead, and one of the quotes is, "This means something." Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it's a weird correlation. It's kind of anomalous activity. So that's why I think it would be a good idea to pay attention to these stocks tomorrow, and also kind of backtracking around to, we could be lining up perfectly for a turnaround Tuesday tomorrow once we get this little gap here filled. In which case, if these stocks performed in this capacity in a weak market, and we do get a turnaround Tuesday once we fill this little gap here, well, they could do even better. But of course, I could be completely wrong, but these are my observations on the session. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Okay, let's see here. We did have a couple of symbols pop through here. Let's just take a peek. All right, KXIN. I'll just go ahead and flip my intraday back to 15-minute here. I can see the big green bar over there today. Well, don't have to be a technical expert. KXIN was just consolidating down here like it was gonna eventually fade away into nothing at 51 cents. And all of a sudden, topped out today at 13.31. So as far as trying to, you know, pick and choose on the intraday or the daily here, man, your guess is as good as mine. But hey, something has definitely happened in this one to propel it from 50 cents to 1, 2, 3, 4 to up over 13 bucks in 4 days, right? Probably news driven. Autodesk. All right, looks like this guy is that, well, I don't have to back up a little bit more here.
Looks like it's get it ready for a reversal to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, getting up here, closing below what we close at today. Oh, sorry, yeah. Just kind of wanted to make sure I was looking at the entire history there. Yeah.
That looks much more ominous for a reversal. Mm-hmm. Big move right above that prior resistance, a topping tail wick with a red candle after a big green move. I'd be not wanting to take a position here long.
Right. I concur, Doctor. In tap. Kind of similar, popping up to that area right there and wicking back down.
You might build off of that blue line 50 period.
Yep. All right. Thoughts on DKNG?
Yeah, I wrote him back and said it was a nice reversal candle there. Might
Yeah.
be looking for a bounce off that moving average as well.
Mm-hmm. So nice reversal, nice wick being put in right here. Okay, VAPO. Yeah, kind of getting to the upper end of that little area right there, butting up with this area of congestion as well.
That's on the Andy's revenue growth fishing swing scan. I've been seeing that name pop up.
Yep.
Doesn't look bad. Nice risk reward, I would say, is the big headline there.
Yep, and quarterly growth revenue coming in at almost 84%. So not bad, definitely one to keep an eye on there. So that was VAPO. Okay, and we'll do one more here. Can you take a look at MGI on the 1 day and 15-minute chart? MGI. All right. Well, definitely getting frisky today.
That's a bad tick that you're talking about too. Midday, it held the moving average perfectly and gave it up at the close. A really good day, but I don't see that bad tick you're talking about, Jim.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me, Steve. Yeah.
We saw a
524.
flash crash at 409, but I don't think we see that. It's not on
Right.
the 15-minute chart.
Oh yeah, I see that now. Yeah, probably just a bad tick. Look at the first 15-minute candle. Okay, here we go. Looking at the first 15-minute candle, low of 414.
Bad tick is a tick like 30 or 40 cents out of the current price range. It's an reported old trade or an old print. You never really know why. They try not to do them.
Yeah, and a bad tick is just generally anything outside of the current market, right? So a lot of the times it manifests itself in a stock that had heavy selling. It opened at 10, and then in the first hour it's down at 9, and then you see a print of 968 come through the tape. That was because somebody's network at some firm crashed, and that tape, where that tick didn't hit the tape in a timely fashion. When they get back online, it burst all through there.
And
And
no,
that's
you
how you
would
can see.
not be stopped out. If you did, you'd have a good argument for your broker.
Correct.
Those are usually outside of the normal trading current range, and so it should not affect any triggers.
Exactly. And lastly, we had a question: can Trade Ideas be downloaded on an iPhone? And the answer is no. We don't have specifically an app for the phones, but our web-based version was designed to run on any mobile device. So it will run on your phone. You're just going to have a much smaller screen, but it'll run on any mobile device. A lot of people like to use tablets for the web version, or if you do have a supersized giant phone, a lot of people find that is adequate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for popping in today. Always a pleasure. So Scott, if you're hanging out in the wings, it's time to walk us on out, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Couple items. Grab that earnings book before we start to replace it with the new next hot book. It's all about earnings season and how to make it your advantage. Go to trade-ideas.com/earnings. Get that download. It's got some cloud links you can import into your layout. Also, check out the podcast. We've had a new episode up recently, and there's also some great archived episodes this year. Just search for Trade Ideas Podcast wherever you listen to your pods and grab that. Fall savings will save you 15% off your first month or year of any Trade Ideas subscription or upgrade. So if you're thinking about starting up, go ahead and do it today. Just use that code or use that to upgrade. You can follow Jamie on Twitter at QuantBot. Steve Gomez is at Today Trader. Trade Ideas Pros, our Facebook handle, so follow that and share everything we post with your friends. And if you have any questions, email them to info@trade-ideas.com. Goes into our help desk, gets you the help you need as quickly as possible. Thanks, everyone. We'll have this recording up later on tonight or tomorrow, and stay tuned tomorrow for an email update about how to find it. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Happy trading. See you tomorrow.